Hi everyone, this is Kimberly from Kimberly's Fabric Stash, and today we're going to be making this fabulous vinyl project bag. And I'm so happy that you're here joining me live. If you are joining me live and you need to leave, this will still be available in the coming days, weeks, and months. You can always go back and watch it from the beginning. I'm really excited to be here and share with you how to do this bag, because we are working with vinyl and it's something that people tend to get nervous about, and we don't want you nervous. We want you happily sewing. And this bag, you can make it in different sizes. Today we're going to be using the pattern instructions from the Quilting Nook, and I'll go ahead and pin that back up. It is also in the event link at the top. And if you are shopping with us for the first time, we run our shopping experience through comments sold. Many of you are familiar with that. And if this is your first time, go ahead and type register. That will set up your account, and it doesn't cost you anything to set it up. And then you'll get a notification through Messenger to confirm your account, or an email ask you to confirm your account. And then that way, when we show products, just a couple today, but when we show something, if you want to purchase something like that, you can go ahead and make that purchase, and I'll explain to you further how to go about doing that. You can know that our shipping is a flat $5. At $75, it gets shipped for free. And we have a weekly newsletter, and I'll put up links to all this as we go through. And we're going to go ahead and switch cameras so that you can follow along closely as we do this project. Please let me know if you have any comments, questions, or concerns. I am able to see my comments. I'm by myself today. Usually on Friday nights when we do our live show, my daughter's here with me, but she's in nursing school, which is far more important that she finishes that than helps me read comments. So I'll be reading comments and doing our show by myself, as I do most Tuesdays. And then tomorrow night, we'll be right back here at 7 p.m. to do our Amish Star Pot Holder class. And that is 7 p.m. Eastern Time as well. So, so as we go through, I'll be talking about different things. But I'm going to go ahead and flip cameras. And again, I'll start reading some comments, saying hi to people. And then we'll go ahead with our project bag. All right. Okay, so hopefully you guys can still hear me. I'm going to flip over to, all right, so we have people registering. That looks good. I'm going to check to make sure that the registration is working. So give me 1 second. It's always a little bit of, you know, bookkeeping, so to speak. Okay, it looks like we have that being done successfully. And let me say a quick hi. We got some snow today here in Western Pennsylvania. And I know a lot of people find snow to be annoying. I love snow days. I think snow days are the absolute best. And okay, hi Brandy, hi Darlene. Hope you're doing well today. And let's see who else is on here. I know Carol jumped right on when let me scroll back up here. I know Carol jumped right on and said hi. Good morning, Mikey. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, from Southern California. And Pam from New York. Boy, hi, Jeannie. I'm glad you got your zipper working. Jeannie emailed me last night that her zipper pull had come off the end of her zipper, and that is always a panic. And thankfully, I was able to quick find a YouTube video to kind of show her how to put that back on, and whew, good news is she was able to do it. So hi to Kathy Vaughn. Sorry, I bumped the table, everybody. So let's see here. I think that love the gnomes. Okay, thanks, Leah. Leah's watching. Hopefully everything sounds okay. Hi, Paula. Wow, we have a lot of people on today. Again, Kim Ford, I got your stuff sent out to you, so hello, hello. And yes, inches of snow, I can't help it. I know people have to drive in it, and I have to drive in it too. I just love snow days. I just think that it's like a highlight to me. I don't know if it goes back from when I was a little kid. And we had snow days from school. Not that I'm off today. I'm working, obviously, because we're here. But the point is I just love to see the fresh snow and have that like cozy, warm feeling. I don't know. It's just a little thing. So anyway, so we're going to be making our project bag. And So basically what we want to do is go over our list of supplies to make sure that you are on the same page. And we're going to be using the instructions from the Quilting Nook. So I'm going to pin them up right now. And I'm going to unpin that from the top. And I'm going to pin that now to the top. Haha, look there, I did it. So that's a joke because last week I couldn't figure out how to do that. So the point is we're going to be using this great pattern from the Quilting Nook, and I chose this pattern from her because she has very simple instructions that I think that even beginner quilters will be able to do this bag. And hi to Allison from England. So it is like 7 o'clock at night there, I believe. And so that's why I chose her pattern. And basically, what you're going to need is, let me scooch this out of the way, and what you're going to need is, of course, your piece of vinyl. And today we're using 12 gauge vinyl, which I have available in the store. And like I said, we'll do shopping stuffs in a little bit. I want to go ahead and like kind of get us into all our supplies and what we're doing. Believe it or not, like literally 10 minutes before I went live, I had to switch out the sewing machine because I needed a walking foot, and my other machine that I usually use, I had packed up a lot of its accessories, and of course I could not find the walking foot today. So I quick flipped out to this sewing machine here, and it does have a walking foot. If you do not have a walking foot for your sewing machine, you can still do this. I don't want you panicking and going, oh my goodness, I can't do the project because I don't have a walking foot. You can still do the project. It's just a walking foot tends to make things easier, and we'll go over the different feet in just a second. We have our handy dandy wonder clips that we'll be using that she also uses in the instructions. We have our fabric. So we have our fabric, our backing fabric, and our fusible table runner material, and I'll talk a lot more about that as we use it. I have pre-cut all of my binding and my accent pieces ahead of time so that you're not sitting here watching me cut. And some weeks I will sit and cut. Oh my goodness, we have somebody from Norway. Hold on one second. Hi, Anita from Norway. Okay, we are like really, really international now. Thank you for joining me, Anita. I appreciate it. So, some weeks, it depends on our length of time as far as whether I will cut live. It makes me nervous to cut live because things happen that I can't control, and, you know, it's just, I pre-cut. So hopefully you have all your materials laid out. I am on my wool pressing mat, and you can clearly see, this table is wobbling today. You can clearly see here too that I'm using a piece of cardboard underneath my wool pressing mat to protect my cutting surface. So if you are also on a wool pressing mat for your pressing, and you are on a surface that could potentially warp like a cutting mat, make sure you put a piece of cardboard or something in there to protect the surface, because we certainly don't want our cutting mat or any other surface to start, you know, doing its like wavy things, because that would be bad, right? So so understand that I am protecting my surface. Do not assume that I don't have something under here. I do have my hot iron ready to go, and basically like I said, I pre-cut everything. I have my zipper, all right, and we're just using a regular standard nylon zipper. If you want to use a different type of zipper that is, you certainly don't want to use an invisible zipper, let's put it that way, but you're going to want to, and I don't like metal zippers except for coats, so typically we use a nylon zipper. This one is 16 inches long as per the instructions. And let's see, in the sewing machine for thread, I have, hold on, we're going to try and turn this just a hair. Okay, well, you can't see it real well, but I'm going to tell you what's in here. So I'm using Metler quilting thread. The weight is 40 weight. It's a little thicker than, well, it's not super thick, but it's a 40 weight quilting cotton. I am using cotton. You can use polyester to do this, or a poly blend. That's completely up to you. Okay, hold on. Somebody's on from South Africa. Well, hello from South Africa. Thank you so much for joining me. Okay, this is getting way too crazy. So we have 40 weight Metler quilting thread. I have a chrome Schmetz 8012 needle in my needle holder right now. My bobbin thread is matching my top thread, so you should always try and match your top and bottom threads, but there are times we'll be sewing together where you won't be matching, and those are different circumstances than what we're dealing with today. I have my handy dandy zipper foot ready to go because we are going to be installing a zipper, and her instructions for installing this zipper are super simple. So again, we're not only dealing with maybe the nervousness of working with vinyl, but no, my goodness, we're doing a zipper too. So I don't want you nervous. I want you to enjoy your sewing. So we're going to kind of tackle a couple different things, and I think that's why so many people signed up for this class, because of that reason. So the first thing that she tells us to do, I'm going to set some of these things aside, and it looks like you guys can see everything, like my magical hands that are just kind of waving in front of the screen here. Basically, thank you for sharing, by the way, Gary. And I should mention, probably Leah might have mentioned this because I know Leah's popping in here, that if we do ask you to always share our videos, it helps our business to grow and provide a lot of more informative videos and sew-alongs to you for free. So if you wouldn't mind sharing to your friends and other sewing cohorts, that would be great. And again, later on, we'll put up the links to our VIP club and our upcoming classes. We have, again, a class tomorrow night. We'll be right back here. So basically, I have my 100% cotton fabric here. This is going to be the part in the bag that you can see here. Okay, that's going to be, it's from the same fabric line. And then this is my backing, and then this is my fusible. So we're using the Quilter's Dream fusible table runner material, and we use this because it's really nice and flat. It doesn't have any, what's the word I'm looking for here? Groupings or collections of batting where it's all clumping together. So there's no clumps. It's nice and flat. It's fusible. And I got to flip it over to the right side. And you can feel the glue on there. It's not sticky, but it's like a rougher kind of feeling. So if you have some of this at home and this is the first time that you're using your fusible batting from Quilter's Dream, the table runner batting, this is the side that is rough. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to fuse our background, and I'm trying to see if I brought in my, I have my 505. So I'm going to fuse this down. And when we're ironing in Quilt World, those of you that have taken classes with me before know that, yeah, you're hot. You know that we don't iron back and forth like in this motion. We are pressing, and pressing keeps our quilting material from stretching. Now, if I was, there's always the question about, are we pre-washing? Are we not pre-washing? All those kinds of things. It's a project bag. I don't plan on washing the project bag. I don't plan on, you know, it's not like it's a quilt. And again, some people don't wash their quilting materials when they are making a quilt. Completely up to you. There's a lot of people that wash because of the chemicals that, like a friend of mine was explaining to me, all the chemicals that are sprayed onto the fabrics so that they can be shipped and not, you know, deal with varmints on ships and all those kinds of things. So yeah, there is a lot of stuff that is done to the fabric, but it's also comes with sizing in it, and that's why it has a little bit more of a stiff feel. And also notice that I did not starch this piece of fabric. Again, I'm not cutting it apart. Usually if I'm starching, it's because I'm getting ready to, Judy, you are not late for class. You're doing just fine. We're just still pressing things down. If I'm going to be starching, it's because I'm going to be cutting my fabric apart, and I'm not doing that today. So I did use my best press, and if you don't like breast press, you want to use something else, that's fine. I did use my best press to get all the wrinkles out of my fabric so that it looked nice for class, because we shouldn't be playing with wrinkly fabric. And then at this point, I have my handy dandy can of 505, and I used to ship this, and then I found out that it is like not illegal, but it has all sorts of rules to it that it just became so expensive for me to ship the 505 that I'm like, nope, we're not carrying 505 unless it's a local pickup. So I don't ship 505, so you won't see that for sale in this on the online because of that reason. So, but any type of spray base. However, if you don't have a spray base, just pin this down. That's okay, because all we're going to be doing in the next few minutes is just sewing across this. So you can put pins in. Just because I have a fusible doesn't mean you have to have a fusible. It's really nice, and if I was going to play with fusibles, again, I like the 505. I think it's fantastic, and you can get it through other places online. They're somehow shipping that without incurring a $14 fee. I don't know how they're doing it. Good for them. So the point is, though, is you can use a spray based. Okay, so I have my back, I have my front, and now we're just going to go ahead and typically, you know, you can do anything you want. Like in the one for class, in the picture, I did some diagonal hash lines and those kinds of things. And most sewing machines come with this like strange little metal creature, and everybody goes, "What is that for?" That is for it's a guideline. So when you draw your original line here, this shoves into your walking foot if you have it on your machine, and you can set that distance. And I really wish, okay, hold on, we're gonna do that. Did you get to see that? Okay, so now it's attached to my walking foot, and I can adjust how many inches over from the needle my lines are going to be without having to draw every single line. How cool is that? So it's a little bit of a time saver. I think mine's set at 1.5 inches right now. And I'm going to give you a second here to kind of catch up. Hopefully you're in the same spot if you are following along. So right now we have our front fused to our batting, and that's fused to our backing. And then I am going to draw a line. And lucky me, I completely forgot to bring out a ruler. So we're going to use the edge of something straight in the shop and make a line, because, you know, I wasn't flipping out a sewing machine 5 minutes before we went live today. So I'm just going to use any ruler, and I'm going to draw, sorry for the flip on the table. Yes, Sarah, am I saying that right? Yeah, Sarah. Yes, Sarah, that is what that tool is for. You're hilarious. This is why we have class, because I bet you there's a whole bunch of things that you guys don't use because you're like, why did they throw me a weird metal bar in my kit? That's why. So basically, I'm going to just draw a line diagonally. Don't overthink this step. It's just a straight line. I am using my Sew Line pencil because it is a darker material, and I need to be able to see it. If you're using a friction pen, you can use that. If you're using a piece of chalk, you can use that. But basically, at this point, we're going to draw our line and go from corner to corner. Okay. And the rule to typical when you're going across large pieces of fabric, you want to get your 2 original lines set first. Okay. And the reason for that is you don't want the fabric shifting from the subsequent lines. So maybe I'm not saying that very clearly. What I'm trying to say is I'm going to sew an X first, because if I started sewing this and then the next one and then the next one, my fabric's going to start walking all over the place. And even with it basted, it's still going to have a whole lot of shifting going on. So in order to secure the fabric and make sure that everything does not walk, I'm going to start with the X. Okay. Now my stitch length on this today is, what are we at? Hold on. Okay, so it looks like I have the stitch lengths, and that's like way too long. That was a basting stitch. So we're going to be down to like a 2.8, 12 stitches to the inch, something along those lines. Most of your machines are electronic. Yes, Jackie, just in case I missed something. Yes, Jackie, the video is always available. I leave them up all the time. When I do a video and need a close-up, I just zoom in for the close-up. You're absolutely right, Gary. And you know what? I might be, okay, if you guys want to like zoom along here with me, we're going to try that. Okay, zoom. Okay, so we're zooming. All right, that's probably a good idea to do that anyway for right now. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. I'm always open to suggestions, because I'm not an expert. I am just somebody that's been doing things a long time, and I don't pretend to know, and I don't think I know everything. So I'm always willing to learn. So we're going to do this. All right. And at this point, again, I have my walking foot on. And if you don't have a walking foot, I don't want you to like panic, because this still can be done with a regular foot. It's just, you want to make sure you have a lot of pins down. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and do this part. And I'm not using that bar yet. Okay. You are going way too fast, mister. All right. So we're going to just stitch across our line that we drew. And then we're going to go the other direction. Are we seeing this? You are. Okay. And we're going to get this down. And it was one of those things I debated last night, whether I should pre-stitch this and just kind of go, look, just make cross hatches, or if it was something I thought, well, you know what, we should do for class, because again, we're here to teach you how to use lots of things in your sewing box. And this concept of making hashes, it might be totally new to you. So I thought, well, I better make sure I show everybody. And for those of you that know how to do this, you're probably on like row 4 already and going, yeah, Kim. But I have to remember that not everybody has been sewing a long time, or more than a year or whatever, and this might be a new concept for them. So I have my X done. All right, now I'm going to use this bar, which I kind of just eyeballed that, yeah, that looks about the size I want it to be. And at this point now, the bar is going to go on the line I just stitched, okay? The bar goes on the line I just stitched, okay? And now all I have to do is follow that stitching line. I'm not going to really pay attention to what's going on over here at my needle. I'm going to be making sure that this bar stays on this line. And I have just removed minutes and minutes worth of marking time, because I'm utilizing a tool that makes complete sense. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. Now your question probably at this point would be, do we have to do the same thing? Hold on, go back down. Do we have to do the same thing before and worry about that X? We are going to worry about the X, but first I'm going to flip this around. And again, I'm off that center, and I'm going to put in the side lines to this center line. That, because it wouldn't make any sense to sit there and flip it constantly, because I've already done that first step of securing everything down. So at this point, again, I'm just following along. And you might be asking why I chose a chrome needle today. Well, I've been a big fan of chrome needles ever since they came out with them. And being that we're going through lots of layers today, and that we're playing with the vinyl, I thought it would be a good choice, because it does have a small shaft on it, but it's built for going through tough things. Like if you're doing a lot of things with batiks, you're gonna more than likely want to get chrome needles, because batik fabric, if they're not good quality batik fabrics, tend to have a lot of puddling in them from the dyes settling into one place. And at that point, that needle has to fight through that puddle. So a chrome needle has the durability to fight through that puddle and still make a decent stitch, because at the end of the day, we want the stitches to adhere properly to all the different layers. Okay. So at that point, all right, where are we at with questions? I never used the guide. Thanks for showing us the basics. You're welcome. Thank you for commenting. Okay, so at this point, we're going to just do a couple more, because it should be, gridded. Now, she suggested in her instructions that you could use a decorative stitch at this point. And if you are doing that, make sure that your walking foot is set up. If you're using a walking foot, make sure your walking foot is set up to use a decorative stitch. The last thing you want to do is break a needle, because some decorative stitches have like this massive like loopy kind of thing, or they're just, bigger stitches, and not all the walking feet created have that opening available there by the needle to handle a decorative stitch. So you know, this is where your creativity gets to come in. Maybe you didn't want your thread to match your background, and you let's say you have a piece of black right now. You wanted white threads to go across there. That's perfectly fine. This is an expression of your creativity, and you know, sky's the limit. If you want to do rainbow lines, that's perfectly fine. There's no rules to the creativity level. There's just some rules to the sewing level. So so don't get all like, oh, I can't use, you know, this color thread or that or whatever. You can, but make sure again that you're using good quality threads. If you're having to buy from, you live out in wherever, or you're apparently in Africa, and you don't have access to good threads in your local stores, you know, that could be an issue, but you're always going to want to try to buy things like Gutermann, Mettler, Presentia, you know, Aurifil, all those kinds of things. Those are good threads that you'll end up enjoying your sewing a lot more, because your thread is not breaking every 3 seconds and you're thinking it's you. And what's really going on is the thread that you're using is garbage. So not all threads are created equal, just like not all fabrics are created equal. All right, couple more rows here and we will be done this portion of our project bag. Again, if you are following along, you might be still where I'm at, where you're just making nice gridded background parts, which is fun and exciting. Okay. All right. And this is actually one of the easiest things to do. A lot of people do grids for like when they're making tote bags. So maybe you want to get into making tote bags. This is a really nice way of making your own quilted look. Some people think they have to buy a quilted material to make tote bags. Certainly not. You can do this yourself at home. So now you might notice how loud my machine sounds. Maybe it's like, why is her machine so loud or whatever? It's just because we're going through so many layers, and I'm hoping that, I just realized that hopefully your camera's not, okay, it's not bouncing. I was like really worried camera was bouncing all over the place. Okay, a couple more lines here. We don't want to like have you lose interest because you're watching me sew grid lines. All right, but that's basically how that goes down. But what do you think? What do you think about just using the bar and not having to mark like 30 grid lines? How cool is that? Definitely a good thing. Plus, who wants to spend time drawing grid lines? I'd rather be sewing. That's just me. All right. So good thread, good needles. Most stores carry good needles, like the Schmetz brand. That's what I'm using, is the Schmetz brand. The manufacturers that tried to introduce crappy needles years ago, they're no longer around. So you're pretty much in a good market for needles nowadays. It's just you have to make sure that whatever your needle is whatever you're doing, you're using the correct needle. Like if I was on blue jeans right now, I would definitely be up in a size 90 needle, because blue jeans are a far heavier material. Plus, if I'm going through layers, it would be really having to fight through that. So make sure that you're paying attention to the weight of your fabric when you're making your needle choice. And Schmetz has a really great guide on their website for free. You can, print it off and keep it in your sewing notebook if you have one. And that way you are able to know exactly why you're buying what you're buying, and you're not so lost. Because if you're new to quilting and new to sewing, needle selection is just as important as thread and fabric. So make sure that you're changing your needles frequently and changing them out based on what you're sewing on. Like if I was on a chenille or something right now, which I wouldn't be for this project, but the point is if I was on a chenille, I would certainly be looking up which needle to use, because I wouldn't want that maybe splitting the fibers of my material and wrecking my fabric. And then, like I said, get in a good habit of switching out your needles between large projects because the needles do dull, and for as cheap as what needles are nowadays, there's no reason really to, unless access is an issue. But if access is an issue, then you want to bulk order needles regardless. Okay, so at this point we have both sides done, and group project for new sewers too. Each person could do it apart and based on their experience. Absolutely. Yeah, so you could always get together. You guys could do like a whole Zoom little thing if you and your buddies, and you all can work on one of these things. So like I said, you could do it in different sizes. We're doing the large size for class, but you can make smaller ones. And this doesn't have to be just for projects. This could be for makeup. You could use it to hold, maybe you paint on the side and you need a brush keeper or something for your paint brushes. Kind of the sky's the limit. Whatever you can come up with to do with your project bag is your choice. So and I think it's very functional as a tool to, you know, you can give them as gifts and all those kinds of things. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to set this off to the side, and we're going to talk about our accent pieces. Batting pieces are off to the, or not batting, binding pieces are off to the side. So I had pre-cut these yesterday, and because again, just to kind of save some time, I do a lot of cutting for class, and most of the time you guys see me cut, but we're going to make sure that we're not going to run out of time. So I did pre-cut those pieces, and I have not best pressed them. At this point, I'm going to add some type of starch stabilizer. How to do this for a few rows and have another piece? Yes, I could do that. What is the VIP Club? The VIP Club is our Kimberly's Fabric Facebook page, VIP Club, where we put in specials and you guys get to see all the newest, latest, greatest things before everybody else. And then other members show different projects that they're working on, and it's all inspirational and all those kinds of things. So I will put up a link to that. And if Leah's still watching instead of being in nursing class, she could always throw that link up as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I will put up the links to VIP Club. So we're going to go ahead and press this out. If you are using starch, that is just fine. Something to kind of give this a little bit of stiffness. We don't want it flimsy like it's coming off the bolt, especially if you washed it. You're going to want to put some type of stabilizer or sizing back in it. The premium Niagara, I believe, that they sell at Sam's Club is an option. I had a customer this week, a good friend of mine, explained to me all about how wonderful the sizing is for that. But she says it has to say premium on it. So in the instructions, the Quilting Nook tells us to fold these in half and press them. And because they're going to go around the zipper and be the accent for the bottom of the bag. So I've done the one, and I know that this piece, because I've already made the bag once, this piece is going to be, that goes for my zipper. So I'm going to set that off to the side for just a second, because the other two pieces are handled a little differently. We are going to fold them down and press them. However, we have to do 2 additional presses, because this one is going to be the bottom of the bag, and I need to make sure that, look at me. Okay, can we press straight today, Kim? Like, I don't know. Okay, hold on. If you make a pressing error, hit it with a little starch, get it set correctly, and then press it again. Like, that was not even, and that's going to mess up what I'm getting ready to tell you. So make sure that you're pressing nice and straight, okay? Okay, I'm sorry for bumping the table so much. What is the bar you're talking about? This is the bar. It is on the, it comes in your sewing machine kit. This is the little, it's like a walking foot bar, and it sticks into the side of a walking foot, and it helps you make the grid lines we just made. Zoom out. I can zoom out. Yes. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yes. See? You guys are so good. Like, making sure you can see. Is that better? Miss Joanne, it should be a lot better. I don't need to be that close. I need to not fall over my own cord. Okay, so at this point in the instructions, she tells us to fold down 1/4 inch on each raw edge of this piece. That is because when we sew this onto the bottom of the vinyl, we need that edge to look proper. You don't want a raw edge there. So if you need to get out a ruler and eyeball, or not eyeball, but measure a 1/4 inch, that's perfectly fine. But it is to be a 1/4 inch turn under on this edge. All right, and again, this is going to be a part of the bag that encloses the vinyl. And another cool thing about sewing on this vinyl is there's very limited amount of time that we're actually on the vinyl bare with the needle touching, or the walking foot or the sewing machine foot touching the vinyl. So most of the time we're going to be on our fabric stitching through the vinyl. So that piece gets set there, and I'm going to repeat the same thing because this piece is going to be up near the zipper as well, and I'll show you in just a minute because we'll get to that part. But again, we're going to fold under those edges because this piece is going to be encasing the vinyl. So we're going to fold down those 1/4 inches. Oh, thank you, Jackie. You're so nice. The bars for the walking foot. Yes, thank you, Gary, for explaining that again. I do appreciate all the comments. You guys are so wonderful. Okay, so we're going to do that. Now, to be honest with you, when I originally made the bag, I misunderstood her instructions because for some reason I can speak English, but I don't read it all that well sometimes, and I misunderstood something, and I ended up sewing improperly, which people do. I know, I do it all the time, and I had to rip it out. So I thought, oh, make sure that I'm going to explain this a little differently, not differently, follow along in the instructions, absolutely, but I'm going to explain this a little bit more visually, because if you're like me, you have to see everything. It's very, very important that we get this right. So let's deal with our zipper. I'm going to set you off to the side now. Okay, so they're going over there. And at this point, I'm getting out my handy dandy zipper. Okay, and I'm going to switch the foot on my sewing machine to my zipper foot. Now, at this point, it is, I would say, oh, that's really not necessary. It is. You really should have a zipper foot for your sewing machine. Most sewing machines come with a zipper foot. And sorry about like reaching in front of you here, but okay. I was going to think if I couldn't get that off, I was going to have to like get out a pair of scissors and unscrew this. Zipper feet definitely have a place in the world. They're kind of like weird because you're like, what size am I supposed to be using and all that kind of stuff. The big thing is right now is if you were on a decorative stitch, you need to switch your machine back to a straight stitch. Otherwise you're going to blow up your needle because it's going to start trying to do that decorative stitch again, and you're going to end up having that needle hit your zipper foot. So on my machine, I can actually switch back and forth depending on what side of the zipper I'm working on. And give me 1 second, because I should be able to switch this. Yeah. Okay. That's that. Ah, here we go. I think I got it. Zipper. Zipper. You're not going to let me do the zipper. You're not, because of the throat plate. Right. Okay. So this machine, being what it is, reads the throat plate on the machine and adjusts what you're allowed to do based on the throat plate. I know that's like really nuts, and it's kind of a pain because like when you're in the middle of class and you're trying to switch over to a zipper foot, it won't let you. Okay, so now we're there. We're doing a lapped zipper and we're not basting. So we're going to talk about this part now. In the instructions, she says, and she has this really well documented, the raw edge goes up and, hold on, I'm going to make my zipper here. And it's going to have the fold against the zipper, okay? So at this point, okay, I'm going to open that so you can actually see what I'm talking about. The fold is going to smack up against where the teeth are on the zipper, all right? So I'm going to use wonder if we can wonder clip this. I usually pin everything, but we're going to play with the wonder clips today. Can you sit there? And come on, wonder clip. It's wonderful. Okay, you're going to hold that kind of there. And I'm going to move the zipper. Well, actually, I can move the zipper off of this so it's not in the way. You don't want the zipper head where you're getting ready to sew, because what's going to happen is it's going to have to like kind of bump up against this, and you don't want that in the way. So if you have the option of moving the zipper pull completely out of the way, then you will be able to sew straight down. And at this point, all we're doing is just stitching right down next to the teeth. Yes. Okay, hold on. I went the wrong way. Right. And because a zipper foot has like this little groove thing, you want that groove to kind of ride right next to the zipper teeth, okay? So you want that as close to the zipper teeth as possible, so your zipper foot should be running down like this, okay? Right next to there, and then you're stitching right as close to the zipper teeth as possible. Hopefully that makes some sense. I may have to do a class using a different zipper foot because mine is just a tad different than yours, maybe. Some of the other machines don't have a zipper foot as set up the exact same way. I'm going to try not to burn myself at this point. And we'll do the zoom feature, right? Because we can, right, Gary? We're going to do the zoom feature there. And at this point, my pull is out of the way. I probably really should have pin that down, but okay, I'm going to put my needle down and I'm going to sew right down next to, okay, nice and slow, nice and slow. We are not in a race here. And I'm going to be putting that folded edge right next to the teeth. Okay, this is going to form the top of my accent piece, which is in her instructions. So we're going to do this. Zippers do not go in fast. They take a little bit of time, but if you think it through, you'll be able to tell if your foot's on incorrectly, because it won't allow you to run that needle right next to the zipper. And that's always the function of a zipper foot, is getting as close to those teeth as possible. If I had on my regular sewing machine foot, I would never be able to get that close because of the fact that the standard foot would be riding on top of the teeth, and you never want that riding on top of the teeth. You want it next to the teeth. Okay. Thanks, Nancy. You're so funny. Yes, so the folded one is towards the teeth, Judy. Yes. Okay, so back to our visual here. So we have that edge there. And now the piece that has the 1/4 inch turns into it, this is going to form this section of our bag, okay? And I know that because I'm going to be putting in my, sorry, I turned it the wrong way. I'm going to be folding in my vinyl, and that's how I know I'm doing this correctly, okay? Very visual, must see it in live time, so to speak, so that we know that we're doing this correctly. So again, I'm going to wonder clip these in place. Make sure that you have your flaps facing downward, because this is where the vinyl is going to be. And I'm leaving it on the zoom for just a second because we're going back to the sewing machine. And again, if you're not using your wonder clips, you can use pins, whatever it is. You could glue baste this at this point. I meant to show that actually. You could glue baste, where is my glue baste? Okay, I don't have it open. It must be inside. Roxanne's glue baste has a fine tip. We do sell these in the store, and instead of pinning, you could always run a drop of glue baste down the edge of that zipper and then hold that down and kind of get it secure there so the zipper doesn't walk on you, or the fabric doesn't walk on you while you're sewing. There's a lot of glue based on sewing, and many people don't realize it because they think that glue is a big no-no in the fabric world, and actually a lot of sewing is done with a glue basting, whether you're doing trim, anything to hold that fabric in place while you're getting ready to sew is a good thing. But make sure that you're using glue that's suitable for fabric. You don't want to use, well, a lot of people use Elmer's, and I think that's okay. I have not used a lot of Elmer's for anything except for paper crafting, but I think they might make in Elmer's for fabric. So at this point, I'm going to flip this around, and instead of turning my zipper foot, which I wouldn't need to do, and you probably wouldn't either, I'm just going to turn it around and come from the other end. We're not clothing sewing, which would require us to probably flip that foot. So we're going to just sew this now from the other end. Again, I have the fold next to the teeth. Okay. I'm not going over top of the teeth. This is not a high-end zipper. We're just putting in a couple pieces next to it. Okay. So you're going to stitch that down. And at this point, as long as everything goes well, we're going to be in really good shape. Okay, so far so good. Now, I am going to switch back to my walking foot because now my zipper portion is done. Hold on, well, let me zoom back out because we can do that. And, sorry for bumping the table. I'm going to pull the zipper pull down into this section. And I believe at this point, what she has us do, and I'm trying to go off of memory because I don't want to have to like stop and read for a minute. I'm going to go ahead and trim this around because I'm seeing my batting and I really don't want to have my batting there. So I am going to trim that and completely need to put my hands on a pair of scissors. Here they are. We're going to use the new Elons that we have. So I'm going to trim this, and if you're having batting sticking out from your edges as well, go ahead, and this is the time that we're going to trim that up. Get rid of that excess batting. Okay. Make that look nice. Same thing on this side. Typically when you are doing grid work or some type of quilting on layers, your batting is going to be past your fabric a little bit because it kind of pulls in, all that stitching pulls in, and you just have to remember to go back and trim. Okay, so we're trimming, and okay, way too much batting still there. Okay, so we do this, and I believe this is the direction of our, yeah, because this is supposed to be a little bit bigger than the vinyl, is how I remember it, because we trim, if I remember that correctly. So at this point, we lay this down, and we lay down, and this is the part of the instructions where I got a little confused because I'm like, what? Why are we sewing through all these layers? But I really didn't have that thought properly until I had sewn it, and I'm like, oh no, that's not what we're doing. So at this point, she has you laying down the piece of vinyl over top and getting everything settled so that you can see where the vinyl is going to tuck into your parts of your accent pieces. Does that make sense? Am I too far back from you? Okay, here we are. Letting you catch up. Let me read. Be sure that the bobbin thread is the same color as the top thread if you flip the zipper to see it down. Yes, absolutely, Gary. Thank you. Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely always match when I'm doing like home decky kind of things or whatever, because we want to make sure that all that doesn't pop up. Because sometimes, even if you have like the best setting in the world, then you know, you still have that bobbin thread that once in a while decides to pop itself back up. And my mouse went off, and I do need to read, so we're going to pop over to her instructions. So we are at the point number let's see where we are in her instructions. If you're following along, we just did the zipper and we sewed along both sides. Now we're going to measure. So we're on step 9. No, on the front, on the accent pieces. Measure 1 inch from the bottom of the zipper unit to the bottom of the front. Right. So at this point, we're going to take our ruler, and she has already started clipping. This is what got me confused. She had clipped all this into place, and then I started sewing, and then I went, what? I just sewed through the bag. This is just for measuring at this point. And if you are going to visually do this, like with me, then these are just holding this in place for us to get this settled in the right section. That's all we're doing. We're not going to sew the front to the back. And you're probably like, well, of course we're not. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But like when I did it originally, again, I can read English sometimes, but not always understand it. So she wants us to measure down 1 inch from the zipper, okay, from the bottom of the zipper unit to the bottom of the front. So at this point, we're measuring down 1 inch, and in that inch is where we're going to be sticking this piece of vinyl. That way we know that the vinyl is in step 10. Now see, we had already cut the vinyl to the width of the front, and we're going to hold that all in place. So kind of 9, 10, and 11 gets a little hairy. So that's why, like, okay, well, we're just going to place this in the thing, line everything up, clip it into place, and then we're going to pull away our accent pieces from the back. Okay, so I'm 1 inch down, sure enough, from that zipper unit, and I'm going to make sure that I'm capturing that vinyl. Okay, making sure that I'm going to capture that vinyl right inside of there. So I'm 1 inch up, and I'm not shoving the vinyl all the way up to the top because then I would run out of my vinyl. So it's only just making sure that it's in there and it's straight. All right. Now, she has that clipped in. I don't understand why we're clipping that in, but I would be pinning this. And I should have probably brought my pins over. So we're going to clip it. Now don't get all nervous because we're going to be trimming this down to make everything nice and even in just a few minutes. So get that all set. Okay. And again, you know what? For this part, you could just flip over to a regular foot. Let's do that. Even though we're sewing through the vinyl, regular foot. Regular foot, where are you? Okay. That's not going to happen. Making decisions. That's a 1/4 inch foot. We could run a 1/4 inch foot along there. Let's do that. We're going to run a 1/4 inch foot. Again, make sure that as you're switching between feet, that you are changing your stitch settings. Again, like if you had the applique stitch going, make sure that you switch off of like a decorative stitch. That's really important stuff. So at this point, I'm going to just move these Wonder clips to hold my vinyl in place, and I'm not going to stitch the front to the back. This becomes its own unit at this point, okay? And I'm going to move this out of the way, and I'm going to come down with this, and I'm going to stitch through those layers as the Wonder clips are hopefully going to hold this, and they'll hold it. I'm just being smart. Okay, so they're going to hold it. So at this point, I want to make sure that I got to move my needle over. Sorry, 1 second. Because I want to make sure I catch that vinyl. All right, so we're going to, and look, we're sewing through vinyl. It's easy because the fabric underneath on the back is not allowing the vinyl to touch the throat plate area. That's where vinyl gets hairy because, okay, you use a Teflon foot, sure. Did you trim yours? I'm trimming mine when I'm done, Judy. So, no, I haven't trimmed trimmed everything yet. I haven't trimmed my back and all that yet. I'm going to trim after the fact. So the vinyl is walking along right now because of the piece of fabric that's underneath the back. Okay. It's the only reason it's not sticking. If I didn't have that piece of fabric at the back, yeah, it would be a mess. But I'm going to teach you in a second what happens if you don't have a piece of fabric at the back. What are you going to do? I'm going to tell you in just a second. Let me sew this other side and we'll talk about that. Okay. So now I'm going to turn this around. I have my top sewn. Now I'm going to sew my bottom. And she made all these things a little extra wide so that you just trim. Okay. Sometimes in sewing world, you'll run into this with a lot of like different kinds of quilt blocks too, where you start bigger and then you trim down. It makes life a little easier to deal with. Okay. So we'll be trimming down. And so again, we're just walking along here, keeping that nice and flat, catching the vinyl. Now you say, okay, Kim, what happens if I didn't have a piece of fabric back there? And we're going to run into that. No, we're not going to run into that. We're going to be fine. The vinyl usually comes with a piece of tissue. And what you can do is take the tissue and place it under your zipper, or not your zipper, your piece of vinyl. And here's tissue. You can stick that between the vinyl and the throat plate and stitch right down, and then just peel away the tissue when you're done. This is one of the easiest ways of moving vinyl through a sewing machine. And if you're finding that you don't have a Teflon foot, like I believe Judy just mentioned, or yeah, Corey just mentioned, you can always flip a piece of tissue on the top of the vinyl as well. And again, that will allow that move through. So tissue is your friend when you're dealing with vinyl. And hopefully that makes sense. Okay. And like I said, most of the time when you buy vinyl, the tissue comes with that. Oh, good grief. What did you do? Okay. It like way moved while I was running that through. So, let's see how bad it moved. I think it way moved, but we're going to find out. So I'm bringing back my front there, and I'm going to close you there, go like that. Okay, that is just horrendous. So sometimes when we're sewing, things happen that we don't much care for, and we have to practice a technique that I like to call unsewing. And it only takes a second to unsew something. I didn't damage my vinyl, but I want it right because otherwise my bag is going to look really weird. So at this point, we're going to unsew the section that just walked all over the place. And, you know, it's okay that these things happen on live TV because you need to see that how do we fix something like that? Or, you know, is this the end of the world and I have to completely start over? The answer, of course, is no. We don't have to completely start over. However, I will be doing this differently than just having the Wonder Clips hold that bottom edge because I'm really not happy with what just happened. And you might have run into the same issue where yours walked and you know, it's not a piece of wood. These fabric moves, and sometimes it moves in areas we don't want it to move. Now, if you're moving right along with the instructions at this point, you could trim everything so it's nice and even and start with your binding step. But for those of you that don't mind, we're going to watch Kimberly resew this little section because it is crooked and not what we want to do. So what happens when we have to rip things out because it's the real world and we're live? We throw this back under the iron and we're going to hit it with some best press again and get that starch back in there because my fabric has now endured the sewing machine and the sewing machine has distorted through the stitches my piece of fabric, and it made it move into directions I didn't want it to move. Does that make sense? You're an expert at unsewing. Well, we should start an unsewing club, Bernice, because I can be quite an expert as well. Just because I do live videos doesn't mean I don't screw things up, because I do. And I'm going to hit this again with my iron and reset that piece of fabric. And it's very, very important that you don't just rip out and start sewing again. You have to get that piece of fabric back into shape. And notice I'm not ironing it back and forth, you know, and that kind of thing. We have to sit there and press and get that nice and straight again. I'm going to line it back up, and we're going to get some pins because the Wonder Clips are not doing what I want them to do. We're going to open the pin pack. Okay, the pin package is open. And we're going to reset this. Okay, so I am going to use my Wonder Clips to hold that part, because that part went really well. This bottom part did not. And where are we on our time? Okay, we're great on our time. So we have time to sit and redo this. Okay, so again, I have this down here at the bottom, and I'm going to flip that vinyl into the bottom. Okay, nice and straight. Okay, and I you know, it's a good thing that you're a good unsewer too, Carol. Very good. Yeah, I can do live videos. I can teach you all sorts of things. It doesn't mean that my stuff is perfect every time. I make mistakes. Things move on me. Nope, do not pin that through to the back. You know, it's just, it is the real world. I don't want you to think, oh, I can't ever, you know, develop this as a hobby because I'm not perfect. Good night. If you ever think that, you have definitely misled yourself into thinking that what you're seeing is real all the time. So there's so many retakes in videos you will see on like YouTube or whatever from the manufacturers or from other quilt shops. There's a lot of editing that goes on, and you know, we're trying to be really brave and do things live for you so that you can sew along with us. That is not going in there, right? But you, again, you know, I've been sewing all my life, and things still move on me. Things still walk. And hey, that didn't work, so let me try that. That is part of this hobby, is figuring out, you know, just obstacles and how do we pivot around them? How do we get ourselves to move forward in our process? Okay, so I got that, I think, hopefully you don't move this time. And again, this could be, it's not, okay. I'm also going to switch the foot out because I'm going the wrong direction on the foot. So I'm going over to my walking foot because we're going to need it in just a minute anyway. And most of, you're not going to believe this, there's a lot of quilting projects that use, and I know we're not quilting today. However, I will tell you that there is a lot to be said for a walking foot, even in quilting. When you're just doing layer upon layer upon layer of things, it gets downright serious as far as movement of fabric. So your walking foot might be your new best friend, because the more you use it, the more you realize the versatility of this little foot and how it can improve your life. So I would, people that are starting out, let's say you're doing a lot of, okay, sorry, I was leaning against that. People that are doing a lot of like kitchen projects or anything along those lines, you're going to find that your pot holders and oven mitts and all that are really going to benefit from the use of a presser foot. Okay. So what is she doing while she's fussing and talking at you? What she's trying to do, what I'm trying to do, and we'll zoom, is I was trying to get that foot, I was trying to get the edge of this foot to not run on this vinyl right now, because I'm trying to keep this piece of fabric from walking all over the place. I was moving the needle over as far as possible so that as I start to sew, I'm not fighting with that piece of vinyl with my walking foot, because I didn't want to have to pull out the tissue and all that kind of crazy stuff right now. So that's what I was doing while I was rambling on about unsewing and the sewing universe as far as what you're actually seeing when you watch people, because fabric moves. Okay. Voila. Got it. Alrighty. Now we are straight. All right, and I'll zoom back out. Hold on. This whole zoom thing. No, you go there. You stop that. I'm not using you. Okay, back out. Very good. So now we have a straight bag. And my pieces can be trimmed down to my edges. So basically what I can do at this point is clip everything in, okay? Take your pins out of the mix. The hard part is pretty much over. The only thing we have to do now is sew these little 1/8 inch seams on the side, but we're going to trim first, and let me show you that. Sometimes it's nice to start bigger and go down from there. All right. The clips are cool. It's just for that, what I was doing just then, they were not working. It was just all over the map. All right. So how am I going to trim this? Well, I'm going to take and I cannot honestly go through the zipper. Okay. I need to move my screen because I can't see if you can see what I'm doing here. Could you do the glue base to keep the slipping? Absolutely. You can glue baste your heart out in the world of quilting and sewing. Absolutely. So I have this edge here, okay, and I'm going to trim that up so it's nice and even with the vinyl. However, I cannot take a rotary blade through zipper teeth. Big no-no. You never want to do that, okay? So I could even glue baste at this point just to kind of hold that down while I trim, but I'm going to trim even with my vinyl. And if you are, you should be doing this step with zippers, or with scissors is what I'm trying to say. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to trim this down, okay, nice and even with the edge. Okay, and at that point I'm going to put a couple clips there to hold that in place. Notice my zipper head, my pull is in over here. Don't start cutting if your zipper head's sitting out here, because otherwise you're going to be running into what my friend Jeannie had to do last night and reset a zipper, and that's a whole different YouTube video classy kind of thing. So don't do that, okay? And actually I'm going to move him here, and I'm going to use a pin up here instead. And voila, we're now at the point where we can sew down our edge and ready for our binding. While I'm letting you catch up to that, let me go through a couple of things, because I have shown you a couple of things that I want you to be well aware of that maybe we're using today and you had no idea these things existed and you want to get a couple for your sewing adventures. So I'm going to take a second here, and we'll sew down in just a minute, and I'm going to turn off my iron. No, I'm not, because we have to do binding. Going to move things out of the way. So the Wonder Clips that we're using in class are a 10 count. So if you wanted to get Wonder Clips, you would comment the word sold and then the color red, okay? And that would put the Wonder Clips in your shopping cart, and they're $6.99 for the 10. If you wanted to get a vinyl kit sent to you where it comes with the vinyl and a zipper, you would comment the word sold, the word keeper, and then you would pick purple, navy, pink, lilac, or teal. I have zippers in all those colors. Okay. Now you might be like, Kimberly, I'm still trying to sew and I don't know what you're talking about right now. You can always go into the store and shop later. You would just look for the word vinyl and you would see the kits. If you're looking for chrome Schmetz needles size 80-12, we carry them. You can comment sold best, and they're $9.99 for a pack of 10. Pretty good deal for needles. And then of course the fusible table runner material that we use from Quilter's Dream, the glue ready to go, fusible stuff. Do not comment that I did it again. We're going to change the word on that because that is not what we want to be. Otherwise you will have 103 of them in the cart, and we do not want that going on. So one second while I change the name of that, we're going to call it glue, and we're going to hit save product selection. Okay, so let's say that you want, yeah, it's already linked. So let's say that you want some of the fusible stuff here. You would comment the word glue, Glue, and that would get you some fusible table runner material. It's $4.99 for the yard. It's 24 inches wide because they actually make it for table runners, and that's typically about how wide a table runner ends up going. So we can revisit those at the end again, but we're just taking a minute here to kind of show you different producty things. And again, if you are, you can always go into the store and look around. I have everything done by category, so it makes your shopping time easier and less stressful. Okay. Friday night is our live show. That's at 7 p.m. right back here. I have the event up. I always do an event link for that. So if you want to see our live show where we go through all the fabrics and products that we got in for the week and see inspirational things, you can always come back here Friday at 7 and join us for our live show. And it's a lot of fun. Leah's here with me at that point, and she makes things really interesting. So, because I need somebody to keep me straight, and she does a good job. Anyway, so 7 p.m. Friday night, we're back here every Friday. And then, of course, tomorrow night, we're back here for class for our Amish Star pot holder, which you might have missed in the intro, but this is what we're doing tomorrow night. This is not a difficult project. I know it looks really, really scary. It's not, okay? So we'll be back here tomorrow night for this class, and there is an event created for this with the materials. It's just a few fabric scraps. You don't need a whole lot for that. So let's move on now to our sewing down of our edge. And this is a point, yes, where we're going to be on the vinyl. If you have a Teflon foot, you will more than likely be able to just sew this without an issue. However, for class, I'm going to share with you and show you using the tissue that came with the vinyl, because I don't want, again, I don't want you going, oh, I don't know about using tissue and this, that, and that. It's just a piece of tissue, and we're going to go ahead and show you how to do that. Now, at this point, because we are using the tissue, we're going to want to use smaller stitches. You may ask yourself, why are we using smaller stitches? Because the smaller stitches will make it easier. Hold on, did I just say that backwards? No, we want to use smaller stitches because it will make it a little easier to pull out that. We don't want to be ripping. Okay, when we start ripping paper away from stitches, it tends to lift those stitches up, and we don't want that. So we're going to, okay, and that has to be right on that edge or I'll never be able to see that. We don't want the paper pulling out our stitches, right? Because that would be like a horrendous thing. So right now, I'm not, for some reason this machine is set to like a basting stitch. It's driving me bonkers. So I'm going to take these stitches down a little smaller, and in the instructions she tells you to stitch around the outside of the bag, because we're going to be putting binding on, but we don't want to be putting binding on while and having all this move. We need this settled for our binding portion. So we're going to move this in, go like that, and we'll go ahead and stitch down. Now, there is a rule to how we're going to stitch this, okay? And for those of you that are new to sewing, I'm not going to just start cruising around in a big square. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do side, side, top, and bottom. And the reason is because things walk, and if you just went around in a circle, by times you get back to the beginning, your bag is going to be shifted. So again, we're going to sew this side, and we're going to sew the other side, and then we'll sew the bottom, and then we'll sew the top. So make sure that you're sewing, and again, we're on like this little tiny 1/8 of an inch seam, which pretty much what you're aiming for at this point in your day is that you are as close to the edge of the material as possible without going off. That is, do not get out your ruler and start measuring 1/8 of an inch. The idea is that you're just skinnying along the very edge just to hold that down, okay? So don't, okay, notice how nicely the paper is just coming off there. I'm just peeling that off. Notice how my foot just walked right across that vinyl like it didn't even exist. It went, what vinyl? There's no vinyl here. Yeah, that's because of the tissue paper. So tissue paper is our friend. So we're going to do this side. Yeah, don't get out your ruler to do 1/8 of an inch. Let me show you. Okay, 1/8 of an inch, honestly, is like, it's just right there, like right along that edge. So make sure that we're not like going to lose sleep at night over the edge stitching here. All right, you paper, go over there. Okay, again, I'm going to do the other side, the opposite side, and I'm going to come down the opposite direction because you always have your fabric out to your left. Oh, forgot the tissue. And we're going to sew that down and nice and, how did I not cut a long enough piece here? Things in my day. It's been a day, let me tell you. Anyway. Okay, and you know what? You're hanging off the edge and shouldn't be. So at this point, notice that I just did a little trim there. That is because this edge was just a little far past, and we want to make sure that everything is nice and even, okay? Now at this point, my Wonder Clips are my best friend. I'm really enjoying them holding everything. And if you have problems with your hands not working so well, and your hands get tired or tingly and all that, pinning might be an issue for you because of arthritis or something along those lines. The Wonder Clips are nice because you're not pinning, you're just, you know, you're just kind of doing that. And so they do help, and they do help with binding. I know a lot of us are older and our hands aren't what they used to be. And it can be very disappointing when they don't hold, or they go to sleep, or they burn. And you're like, all I want to do is put this binding on, or I just want to quilt today, and you can't. So I get it, and I am always looking for things to take the strain off my hands. Maybe you have something that you use to hold things in place that is helping you, you know, make that suggestion, put that out there, because I'm always open to good ideas. Can you use regular tissue paper? Yes, you can. As long as it's just, you know, regular tissue like you'd buy at a big box store. Love the Wonder Clips for the binding. Absolutely. The binding will cover any tissue that is under. Well, yeah, Gary, you could leave it under there. That's perfectly fine too. Like, but in my case, it's not going to hide my massive piece of tissue I have here. It's just not going to happen. So I am pulling my tissue away. However, like Gary said, if yours is just, you know, little tiny bits or whatever, yeah, the binding will cover that up. So good point, Gary. Thank you. So we're going to peel that back, and now we're going to deal with our binding. And again, this might be something that you're like, oh, quilt binding. Well, no, wait, we have to do top and bottom. Sorry, we're still have to do top and bottom here. We will do binding in just a second. But the point is this class is like kind of covering a lot of bases for new, you know, new sewers, or maybe sewers have been sewing a long time and I'm like, nope, not dealing with that. It looks scary. We're trying to take the scary out of things. Now notice I don't have any tissue here because we're not on the vinyl anymore. So binding is, get under there. Sorry, I talk to my fabric because it can hear me. Anyway, binding is another kind of scary topic for some people, and this is a very good bag to play with binding and realize that you can use it in other applications without being nervous. Let's say you're doing a table runner and you want to do binding, but you've never done binding before. Well, you're going to learn today how to do binding. So then you might want to tackle that table runner project. That would be, you know, a good thing, right? So, okay. And again, all this step is doing is holding down all our parts and pieces until we get to the big binding step. All right. So at this point, hopefully your bag is starting to look like the picture and you're having success. Definitely let me know or comment, no, I'm stuck here or whatever, and we'll see if we can kind of get you past that point and move you along. Or you might be like, okay, I see now what the instructions are saying, and I'm not going to make the same dumb mistake that Kim made. And so, you know, the bag to the back, because that's what kind of I thought she was telling me to do and didn't realize it with the picture until later. So, you know, hopefully you're having a successful kind of day going right now. So at this point, look, we have a bag, right? It's awesome. We're really excited. And now we're going to do our binding. And I'm going to move my zipper pull away from this edge because of the binding. And we're going to grab our binding here. And I'm going to leave my walking foot on. Again, this is a point in my life where my walking foot is my friend. And she tells you to cut 2 strips, and which I did. And because we still have time, I got like all sorts of time here. I did not best press these or starch them. And that's because I wanted to show you that flimsy fabric for binding is not a good thing. We want our binding to be kind of stiff because it's getting ready to go to work. Now, let me back you up here. If this was a circle, okay, the binding would have been cut on the diagonal, okay, so that it would have stretch in the right direction. However, we're not doing a circle. We're doing straight corners and all those kinds of things. So therefore, my binding was just cut, you know, here's the selvage edge, selvage to selvage. We just cut the binding that way, all right? So you have to remember, big important part here, that binding is cut certain ways based on application. Tomorrow, when we do the pot holder class, the binding is cut on the diagonal. And if you've already cut, maybe you're joining me tomorrow for binding or for pot holder class, maybe you are. Hello, Archie from Michigan. If you are doing that, go back. If you did not cut your binding for tomorrow night's class on the diagonal, you're going to need to go back and redo that. I love that, but you talk to your fabric. Okay, well, Donna, you have to talk to it sometimes. It helps. You know, he needs to understand that I'm a person too, and it needs to do what I want it to do because I need it to work. So yeah, you have to talk to your fabric. I talk to my sewing machine. Absolutely. I have a good friend that has names for her sewing machines. It's hilarious. Nice and stiff. Okay, we have nice and stiff. And okay, she taught special education. So she has dealt with like a lot of like children and stuff with issues, and her personality is like very creative, but she'll call me to work on her sewing machines because they need cleaned, and she'll say, you know, and I'm just making up a name because I'm not going to reveal who this is, but she'll say, Kimberly, can you work on Crispin this week because Crispin is due for his, you know, annual checkup? And I'll say, yes, I can work on Crispin. And, you know, we have a lot of creative people on the planet, and I think it's hilarious that, you know, she named her sewing machines. And I refer to her sewing machines with their proper nouns because that's what she calls them. So Crispin gets worked on. All right, so nice and stiff binding. And I am going to zoom in to show you how to join binding strips before we put it onto the material, okay? Oh, Kim, you're going to be there. Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you. I do appreciate you joining. Okay, do I need to zoom? Let me see here. Okay, we're going to zoom. All right, got the zoom thing going. And, okay, 2 binding strips, okay? This one goes this way, right? That one goes that way. See the selvage? I'm leaving it on for you to see. This one goes out this way. This would be a horizontal lay of my first binding strip. This one is going to go and right sides down against it, and this one's going to be vertical, okay? Just like that. Okay, you have that so far. I'm going to let you get set there. Alice and Jazzy, those are great names for your sewing machine. Oh, I see a black spot underneath your iron. Yep, that is something that refuses to come off. so it gets to stay. All right, so you have it set like that. I know you're like, why are we sitting here? Okay, it's because I'm doing that now. Okay, I just turned it 90 degrees, and I'm going to sew it diagonally from corner to corner. I'm going to make a diagonal line here, all right, which you should be able to see me do. Now you can, because this is not a heirloom quilting project, you could join them right sides together, end to end, sew the line. You could do a straight like that, but I'm trying to teach you things that you might potentially do later on in quilting world. Not that you're gonna become a quilter, but a lot of you guys are already quilters. So I have a diagonal join, looks like that, okay? Why do we do that in quilting world? We do that because this is good practice for when we're doing sashing borders. Same kind of concept where you have to join strips because the border might be 60 inches long and this is only a 42-inch wide piece of, or 42-inch wide length of fabric. The reason you join on a diagonal is because when the eye is looking down, okay, you have it hanging on the wall. When the eye looks, when your eyes look at that, it will find those horizontal joins and land on them. And in quilting world, we don't want the eye to stop on seams that we've joined, so we always place it on a diagonal because the eye won't find it. That is the reason why we do a lot of sashings like that, because now you can't, well, you can because I've made it close up, but you can see my join. But if you were looking at a quilt across the room, then you wouldn't be able to see that join. That's why we do that. But we're also doing it in binding class because it's good to learn that way. Now at this point, all right, we're going to fold this in half. All right, can you see? Yes, okay. I'm going to fold this in half, and I've already starched it. If you are an extra fan of starch and all that kind of thing, you know, you could starch again. Okay, I have friends that, like, their fabric does not move, and that is perfectly fine. So I'm folding it in. Let me back you guys up so you can see what I'm doing. And we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. The nice exciting thing about Friday night too is our fabric vendors actually decided to send us fabric. And it's not because, you know, we haven't like been playing nicely with our fabric vendors. It's because nobody can get fabric right now. It's so sad. Because of the COVID, there's a lot of issues at the ports with getting the fabrics off the boats and to our vendors like Moda and everybody in Henry Glass. But we excitingly got in new fabric to show you for Friday night. So it's almost like Christmas now, like literally when we get fabric deliveries, because we're like, oh my gosh, the fabric, the powers that be have bestowed us with fabric this week, and we actually get to share it with our wonderful customer base. So we actually have new fabrics this week. And it's not like I haven't spent like an arm and a leg ordering fabric for the year. It's just not getting here. And it can be frustrating, and I'm sure it's frustrating for you guys because you probably want to see new fabrics. And you're like, gosh, Kim, where's all the new fabrics? Yeah, you and me both. So, all right, so we have all our binding. Okay, it is folded and has been folded in half. When do I find fabric and cutting instructions for potholder Mary? Mary, if you go back to my Facebook page, under the events column, you will see all the upcoming events. You'll see the potholder class, and I'll try at the end here to pin all the links for like the VIP club and the potholder class and all those kinds of things. And the fabric in the link to the PDF for that is on the event page. Okay, I went a really long way in saying that, but that's what the answer is. Okay. All right, so we're going to now join, we're going to put our binding on, and my raw edge, okay, we're going to do this on the back to the front because we're going to teach you that work version. So at this point, okay, we're on the back. All right, we're on the back. And I think you can see I have an overlap on my one screen and my other. And I'm going to wonder clip this down because I can. Ha ha ha. And I'm going to teach you how to edge turn here. All right, so we're going to come down this edge, and then I'm going to teach you how to edge turn. So we're bringing the machine back. And you know what? I'm done pressing. So we're going to move our happy, wonderful wool mat out of the way. If you need a wool mat, they're in the store. And I am going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance on this. And I just totally took you out of the mix. Okay, so we're going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. And I'm leaving a tail here. Not much of a tail. Hold on, let me move. And because I'm doing it that way, we need some tissue. Because the vinyl is right on that edge. And it's going to cause that to stick. So we are going to clip that piece of vinyl in, or that piece of tissue in. The vinyl is against my throat plate, and you're like, why are you doing that way? That seems so weird. It's because I'm going to be showing you how to flip this to the front and top stitch it. And in order to teach you that, I have to put the binding on the back of the bag. Okay. You might do yours differently, and that's perfectly fine. I'm just showing you one way to do this. So I have my binding with the raw edge along the raw edge of the pattern bag. All right, and we're going to stitch that down. My tissue is helping that vinyl walk beautifully along the throat plate. Now I'm going to come into this corner, and I'm going to stop a 1/4 inch away from that corner, okay? I'm going to do this. Now that you might want to actually get out a little cool ruler, like we have our cool rulers here, and you might want to measure that in. And you're going to stop at that corner. And then at this point, this is the big wow moment here. You guys need to move. You all are like crowding my seat. Okay. So, sorry I hit the camera. Camera can stop bouncing now. Okay. So we're at this corner. At this point, I'm going to flip this up and crease that into a diagonal. Okay, can you see that? I flipped it up and made a diagonal, and then I'm going to flip that back down on itself. All right, that's how we're going to get a cool corner. So we go in. So we stopped, we pulled it up, we made this cool diagonal, and now we're going to flip it back down on itself. Okay, and then we're going to turn this corner. I'm going to use that wonder clip to hold that there. I hope. Yes, you stay there. Okay, and I'm going to continue sewing down. There's a button here. Okay, we're dropping the needle. Now we're going to continue sewing down this edge with our 1/4 inch seam. Okay, that's going to, now notice I didn't put any paper or tissue paper under there. I'm sewing sideways. This is so awkward because the fabric is against the machine right now. I'm not worried about that. When we come into this edge, I'm going to have to get the tissue back out. And again, you might do yours completely differently. Some people will do the, and I think this is how she did it in the instructions, where you fold in, and then you just stitch down. That's fine, but if you're new to doing it that way, you might find that you've missed things and that you have to go back and sew them. I'm just kind of showing you like quilters binding because we're quilters, lots of us, or we want to be quilters and we don't know. And that other way is not what we do typically for our quilt binding. This is the version that we use for quilt binding. So I'm trying to show you the right things, even though I like script sewing sometimes. Okay, more tissue. It's a good thing they give you lots of tissue in this thing. All right, you're going under here, and we're going to clip you in place. Anybody have any questions? Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for watching. Hopefully, and I'm going to want to see pictures in the VIP group of all the completed project bags. That's part of the fun for me, is seeing how everybody, what they did, what fabrics they chose, how they got to, you know, their creativity. That's why we started the VIP club, because it helps inspire other people. Some people are having like a really hard time right now, completely get it, and they need that motivation. So, oh, let me talk about my newsletter, since we're doing binding. Every week, usually Thursdays, Friday mornings, somewhere around in there, I do send out a weekly newsletter with all the upcoming events, classes, new fabrics that have arrived, things like that. We don't spam your email, you get one, okay? I can't hardly get like enough time in a week to do one. So I don't know how all these companies do like 6. They have employees. I'm like, well, I don't really have true employees. I have helpers. They're my family. But the point is we send out a weekly newsletter, and we also have, besides recipes and all that, we do have a prayer corner because there's a lot of prayer warriors in the quilters world. So we have people that are in need of prayer and other people that do pray for them. So if you are wanting to join the newsletter, you go, Kimberly, that's great. How do I join? The easiest way to do that is to just pop me an email. In the subject line, write subscribe, and you're going to send that email, and I'll put that up too at the end when I do all my links. pitsewing@gmail.com, and just like I said, just type in the word subscribe, and we'll add you to the newsletter. That's just that simple. Okay, here we go, around this corner, almost done. How exciting. Okay. Hopefully I have not lost you completely in this step. Like I said, you can do it the other way, and it is faster, but I'm trying to show you new things. And that's kind of like where I'm at with stuff, is trying to show you how to do stuff. So make your quilting life a little better, or your sewing life a little better. Okay, at this point, I'm coming around to my join. And a lot of people will sit and tuck this one inside of this one. Can you see? A lot of people tuck this inside of this. And if you want to do that, that's okay. Maybe that's the only way you know. And that's fine too. And if it works for you, cool. However, we're going to actually do a quilter's join, which I have to visually do with myself because I tend to do funky things. Now, why is it that all of a sudden I feel like you can't see anything? Okay, because here we are. So at this point, this piece is under this piece, okay? And I need to meld these two together. How do I do that? Well, I'm going to cut away this part, and I'm going to cut a piece of it off. And that, okay, we're going to cut it straight, okay? The width of this, okay, becomes the join to my fabric, okay? And it is, I'm sorry, it's this way. It's the width of our piece. So it's like our 2.5 inches. So instead of me getting a ruler out, I could just use this, okay? By using the slant joining of the binding strip where? I'm not sure of your question, Martha. You might have to give me more to that sentence. I'm not quite sure what you're asking me. So we have our 2.5 inches. So at this point, I'm going to lay this down, the top piece down, and I'm going to take my fingers there, and I'm going to clip that width. I didn't have to get, now if you need to get out a ruler, get out a ruler. That's fine too. Okay. It's always the width of the binding. That's the rule. So then, okay, and I'm going to pick up my 2 pieces, and the one, okay, this is the part where I said I'm very visual. Okay, I did not leave myself enough of a, these have to go back under the sewing machine, and if you don't leave yourself enough of a twist at this point, you have to clip it back. So we're going to clip it back. I know it's a lot of fussing around, but you want it to look nice. Okay, I know it's a pattern bag. Why would it need to look nice? Because we're trying to do things the right way. Okay, so at this point, this one twists into this one. Okay, so this one is twisting that way, and I know it's like, what in the world is she doing? It is where you're trying to put, remember how we had it under the sewing machine, and we had that horizontal piece and that vertical piece to make our binding? It's the exact same concept, except this time we are going to put a pin here. And to know that I did it right, I put the pin there to hold it so that I know that I didn't twist my pieces, okay? I cannot tell you how many millions of times I've done this and actually flipped this piece the wrong way and got it sewn and then went, oh, it's not right. So I always put a pin there, and then when I pull it down, I know that my folds are all where they're supposed to be, and my raw edges are all down here. If I had twisted this wrong, I would have one piece with the fold up and the other piece with the fold down, and that's not how that's supposed to go. So I did it right. I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine, I'm going to leave my pin in to help me hold it. And it's an awkward thing, and it's probably something that you're going to have to practice lots and lots of times to get it right, okay? And from this point, I'm going to hold this here, and it's a lot of hand like movement, but I'm going to sew diagonally from one corner, just like I did with making the binding. I'm sewing from one end to the other. That's all this is. So at that point, I lay it back down, and I can see I did it correctly, and you can't see my join, and there's no big humpy bumpy there. If you did the type where you fold it in to itself, you always end up with this wonky. Oh, and I'm going to trim. Hold on, forgot a step. Okay, we're going to trim out. We're going to trim out that excess fabric. Okay, make sure you're cutting away the triangle, not the binding itself. Okay, now it's going to lay nice and flat, and I don't have some massive hump right here anymore. All that is nice. It's ready to be sewn down, and we're going to do that right now. So we have a visitor. Hi, I'm live still.
Oh, hi.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. For those that know my visitor, Pam Mildren has decided to stop in and pick up an order for me today. So say hi, Pam. She is our local. They can't see you.
Yeah.
She's
Hi, guys.
she's our local long arm guru that we enjoy here in Western Pennsylvania in our quilting community. So she's here picking up a book and watching me finish up binding on a project bag. So yes, so we're doing that.
That's wonderful. I thought you guys were sewing today.
Yeah, so that's okay.
That's lovely. All right.
That's
you guys
okay.
Enjoy.
Okay,
See you again soon.
thank you. Your book is in the box? Oh, you got it. Fantastic. Thank you for coming down and getting that. All right, you take it. Safe travels. All right, so we got that on. Okay, it looks nice. Now we're going to flip this over to the front. Okay, we're going to peel off our paper here. Okay, and again, so here's our bag. This is the front of the bag. Now I'm going to flip over my binding. This is where the Wonder Clips really come in handy because they're going to hold that binding as we go around. And I'm still going to peel off the rest of that paper because it's sticking out. And we are like 3 minutes away from being done with our successful, beautiful project bag. All right, so hang in there. We're almost done. Don't leave yet because this is like the finale. All right, notice my zipper is still over here because I don't want to sew my zipper down. Okay. By joining the binding on a slant, when you stitch it on the joint, will it not be as the same as the big hump? Love the way you ended it with the humpy bumpy. Okay, without, yeah. So yeah, if you take two pieces of binding, okay, and you're trying to join them together, this is going to naturally have to have its raw edge folded in. This one is going to tuck inside, okay? And at that point, you've created this, not only have you created the, all you're going to be sewing is, well, this line here, but when you flip this over to the front of the thing, you're going to have this big humpy line here. And it's going to just one, be a little awkward, but two, now you're going to have to sew through all that extra in the back. So the idea is to not do the flip this under and join thing. You're going to end up having so many layers to stitch across in this final step, where by taking out that, that seam and making it fall on an angle, you've eliminated that huge hump. I hope that makes sense. Try it both ways. You'll see what I'm talking about. You'll see that it eliminates the hump, and that is a beginner's way of doing things. But now that we're moving along into our classes, you're going to know the right way so it doesn't have that humpy bumpy. So maybe you've been doing it that way for years and you like doing it that way and you're comfortable with it. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just trying to show you the other ways of doing a quilter's binding so that if you get into quilting or whatnot, you have that knowledge. think this is where people say capiche, and you go capiche, but I don't know. All right, so I'm using my binder clips. I'm going around in a circle, getting them all clipped on there. If you don't have your binder clips at this point, you don't want to pin through the vinyl because that would be like making holes in it. So you would probably have to, I lost binder clip. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, they left. We'll just use what we have. Okay, so here we go. Oh wait, there's one back there. He was hiding. So we're gonna flip this down. All right, and we're covering over the line that we just sewed on. Okay, does that make sense? Pamela, you're very welcome. Dora, I'm glad you're having a good time. So we're gonna make sure we sew over the line. And again, we never start in a corner. I don't know, I should have said that earlier. We started on the side. You don't start in the corners because corners are always very hard to turn and start sewing down because there's usually a lot of fabric behind them. So we always start on a side. And at this point, I'm gonna use keep my walking foot in place, and I'm going to be sewing right along this edge closest to the vinyl. And this takes practice, and it's not something that you, again, want to do quickly. So I'm just going to nice and slowly. Okay, he tends to want to just fly, and I don't know why. But anyway, we're going to fold that over. Okay. We're going to sew this down all the way around. Okay, for some reason that like skinnied way up. I don't know why. And, okay. Now, we're coming up on our zipper. This is not anything to be scared about or nervous about. This is perfectly fine. So we're going to just stitch right across our zipper. That's another reason why we like nylon zippers, is because you can stitch across them. Now, remember in the back when we did our corner, I should probably zoom. Thank you, Pamela, for the absolute, yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to say, explanation. Thank you. See, and this is why we like class time, because there's people that are able to maybe explain things a little better to others. And you wouldn't believe how incredibly hard it is to sew live and talk and get your point across. So on that corner from the back, when we flip that up, that allows us to have that really nice diagonal finish on our corners. Our corners don't have like boxes on them. They have, and I'll show you on this close-up in when we're all done. But our corners have these really nice diagonals. And look how nicely this is just kind of coming along. The Wonder Clips are holding everything. My hands aren't like killing me right now. Okay, we're stitching. Okay, and we're gonna pull that. And it is a little bit of handwork. Okay, we're going to come into this corner, and I'm going to, from the back, I know you can't, it's like CC, but what I'm trying to do is flip that down so that I have this nice corner, okay, so that it's on a diagonal, okay, and these are things that take, if you're going to be learning anything in quilting world or sewing, these are the things that will take up the most of your time as far as learning to do well. You can learn to knock out a 1/4-inch seam, especially with all the sewing feet today on the market. You can learn to knock out a seam, no problem. It's the tweaking of, finessing of small pieces and parts, or learning how to get your stitches exactly where you want them to be, that takes the most amount of time. That is what the hard part is, as in like any hobby. So you have to be patient, and you have to, well, you don't have to be patient. Patience is a nice thing to try. It's going to test your patience, okay? But eventually you will get it. If I can get it, trust me, you will be able to get this. It's just working through over and over and over. I used to get frustrated because things wouldn't come out after my first try. And my husband would say to me, have you been making 100 of them? And I'm like, well, no, it's my first one. And he's like, then you really don't have any reason to be upset, because unless you've done a bunch of them and learned, you're holding yourself to an expectation that isn't realistic. And I'm like, okay, he's right. He's really really smart with wisdom things. So if this is your first pattern bag and it's not coming out exactly as you imagined, then take your other half of vinyl, because you probably have the other half of your vinyl, and do it again. And if it still doesn't come out just right, do it again. And eventually, I promise you, it will come out. It's just doing things over and over and over again. And that's why people become really good in quilting and sewing, because they just keep doing it over and over and over again. Okay, so do not give up. I don't want anybody failing here or throwing in the towel. Okay, so now I'm going to clip all my little strings. All right, clipping strings now. We're at the clipping strings phase. Woohoo! And here's a corner. Okay, so remember on the back, this is why we do our back turn the way we did. Can you see that, how that nice little angle is coming off that edge? I know it's purple fabric. I should probably have done like bright orange or stiletto. Stilettos are great. But that is why we did that corner that way. And here we are with our pattern bag all ready to go, okay, for whatever I'm going to throw in there. Probably lots of projects I have that I need to do. I have a couple more strings to clip, but you can kind of see, and let me go zoom out now because I can do that. Okay, wrong way. Yep, okay, so you can see now that we have completed our project bag. And again, if you have pieces left over, make a bunch, okay, get good at it. And then, you know, you'll be able to put that feather in your cap and go, wow, I'm able to do that. And look at all the things you learned along the way. You learned about binding, and you learned about zippers and how to work with vinyl. So that's basically how we go about doing things. And I hope that you learned a lot, and I hope I didn't go too fast. But I really think that this is a great project. And you know, somebody mentioned too, these are great stash buster projects, and you can make these as gifts. These are a really nice gift. If I had somebody give me a project bag like this, I would be thrilled, because I can stuff, and it doesn't have to be another quilter. Again, like some people paint and they need a place for their brushes, or you have people that use makeup and they need a makeup bag, or you can use these for travel bags. So the sky's the limit as far as the utility of this type of bag. And now that you've worked with the vinyl and you see really it's not something to be scared of, you can make out a whole bunch of these and give them as presents, or give them to yourself, or whatever. So that's my big lecture. So let me put up some of the links to the VIP club is linked at the top. This mouse keeps turning off. Okay, we're going to turn the mouse back on. All right. The VIP club, let's see here. Okay, somebody's talking to me. Certain needle size for vinyl. I used an 80-12, and I think that went just fine. So if you are doing, okay, this is my groups page here. If you are doing that, an 80-12 needle, well, like I said, I did a chrome, I used a chrome needle. There's the link to my VIP club. And let me see if I can find an event here for you. I'll get you guys to the events page. It's always like tedious. This is usually where Leah does like really good things and just links everything in the world for you guys. But please, this is a good time to ask questions. We still have some time here. Okay, so tomorrow night, here, let's just do it this way. Tomorrow's class is at 7 p.m. Eastern. Okay, let me get the link for that, and you guys can join me for that. That's going to be a fun class. So there's the link for the class tomorrow night. I know it doesn't have the picture yet, but it is there. Where's the VIP link? I have it pinned at the very top. Let me see if I can pin it in again. So that's the Amish bag. And then Friday night, back here on my Facebook page, is our live show. And again, if you want to do our newsletter, just send, oh, here, hold on. Let me type in my newsletter, or for my newsletter here. So this is the email. Send me a thing. It says subscribe, and I'll put you in the newsletter. Yep, Corey, you and I are on the same page. So there's that. What size is your bag? Mary, this bag came out at 14 by 14. So this is the 14-inch bag. Okay. And again, you can tailor this to smaller sizes. All right. So this is the one class. Thank you, Seneca. I appreciate you joining us again this week. And all right. What was the other thing I was going to share with you guys? I think we're going to put up that's tomorrow night's class. Oh, the Friday live show. Let's see if I can put the link up for this, because that'll be fun and exciting. And then I'll go through the products one more time. You guys can always pop over to my comment sold page, look around, and that is the link to the live show Friday night. Okay, so yes, let's go through the papers one more time, and then I'll let you guys get on with your lives. So here's the fusible table runner. You're going to come at sold glue. That's for the fusible that we used in the bag today. It's $4.99 for the yard. We have our chrome Schmetz needles that you're going to comment sold best for those. Those are the 80-12 pack of 10. We have the vinyl keeper bags, and you're going to comment sold keeper, and then you're going to choose a color: purple, navy, pink, lilac, or teal. And our Wonder Clips that are wonderful. Comment sold the word red. You'll get a pack of Wonder Clips. And again, there's other things for you to look at in the store if you want to pop over to the store. And thank you, Sonia. I appreciate that. You talked about a conversion chart for, at the beginning, what was that for? Janice, what I was referring to was the Schmetz needles chart that will be able to, if you are sewing on a type of fabric, it will tell you what kind of needle and what size you should be using. So that's what that was about. So if you go to the Schmetz website, you'll be able to find that on their website. There's a PDF download. And somebody's asking me about, oh, here, I can give you the potholder link. 1 second here. Let me go over to my other thing and go here. Okay, you're asking for potholder supplies. It's really not a lot of supplies. It's like scraps almost. Like, honestly, you do not need to go out and buy yardage for this. It's literally pieces. So over on, I run another, a landing page website is what I call it. But over here, under my free quilt patterns section, you can find the link for the, here is for the tomorrow night's, this is the pattern for the potholder tomorrow night. Thank you, Irene. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Do you have a walk-in shop or strictly online? Corey, I am 99% online, and I do store pickup for my local people. List for supplies for potholder. Joanne, that list just went up. The link went up for the potholders, and the PDF is there for the so you can get your materials together. Okay. Okay. There's that link for newsletter. Okay, I think we're good. All right. So next week at this time, we will be back here to do our shamrock wall hanging. So definitely, put us on your calendar for 1 p.m. on Tuesday. We're going to do the shamrock wall hanging. And then from there, I'll be putting up the rest of the classes this week for the rest of the month and into March. So I hope you enjoyed yourself, and definitely join our VIP club, because we have like really cool things going on in there. And oh, Corey, you're local. Fantastic. I'm glad you found me too. And again, I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. Thank you. Here, hold on. Let's go over to here so you can say proper goodbye. Okay, so I hope you guys had a good time sewing with me today. I hope you learned a lot and encouraged you to definitely try different things, work through your projects. Don't get mad if things don't turn out exactly the first time. You have to do a lot of practicing, but things can be done. And always shoot me an email if you are having like trouble and you still don't understand something. I'm more than happy to send over a clip of, hey, this is what I meant. So because a lot of stuff is visual. So come back here on Friday. Well, come back here Wednesday night. Join me for potholder class. It'll be a lot of fun. Come see me Friday night. We're going to show all our new fabric. hence the gnomes. They're really cool. And we have a lot of fun. Lee will be here with me, and it's a fun Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. Thank you all our international people for joining us. Definitely like our Facebook page and share us with your friends so that other quilters are encouraged, and continue to have a great day. I hope that you are encouraged, and we just thank you for joining us. So take good care, and we'll see you tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Thank you.